Jones. You're into the uh, July 17th edition of Humpday Live. Humpday Live is just a weekly show here on the internet where we give you a little bit of news about health generally. We give you a few tips about fitness, and we give you a little me to you time, something inspirational to get you over that hump each and every weekday. Today in the news department, we've got a quick chat about what has been classified as the new smoking, and it's loneliness. So let's dive into the news. By the way, my name is Ren. I'm a certified personal trainer, certified corrective exercise specialist, a certified nutrition coach. I'm mumbling my words, and I don't care because, hey, this is free for you. A certified nutrition coach, and I work almost exclusively with women through the spectrum of midlife. I'm a 50-year-old trainer who started when he was 40. Most of my clients have gone from late mid 30s into their 40s and 50s, so that's why I work with the population. But let's dive into the Hump Day Live news today, because this is interesting. I first caught whiff of this story scrolling through the internet, and it appeared on CBS this morning, last Wednesday, and it's about loneliness. And it's not something that I think about a lot because my personality type is I've never minded isolation, but I remember everything that people were going through during the pandemic in terms of loneliness and feelings of loneliness. So this article, this story came up, and I want to share it with you here. So the article says, despite the world's overall emotional health taking a positive turn in 2023, and hell, after 2020 and 2021, how could it not take a positive turn? But the world's overall emotional health took a positive turn in 2023. But there's been a recent survey that shows loneliness affects more than 1 in 5 people worldwide, which can lead to serious health concerns. Now, as a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach, somebody that's come through the precision nutrition systems of education, we talk a lot about the six prongs of deep health. And a couple of those deep health prongs are existential health, relational health, and social health. So this ties right into that. 23% of people say they felt loneliness a lot of the previous day. And those who reported feeling lonely, they also felt things like, get this, like pain, worry, which is kind of a no-brainer, sadness, stress, and anger. Loneliness is this feeling that there's a mismatch between the quality of our social life that we have and the one that we want. This is according to psychiatrist Dr. Sue Varma. She said, we can be in a room full of people and feel lonely, but it's this feeling that subjectively people don't understand us. People are not with us, which is really interesting. She said, loneliness is a medical problem. I'm going to repeat that. According to Dr. Sue Varma, psychiatrist, loneliness is a medical problem that should be taken very seriously. She said it's the equivalent of having somebody smoke 15 cigarettes per day. Time out. Now, I've heard previously and very recently that sitting is the new smoking, but now you're telling me that loneliness is the new smoking. It's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes per day. She said, and we know that it affects our mind and our body. It predisposes us to anxiety and depression. It increases our risk by 30% for heart disease. Loneliness increases your risk for heart disease by 30%. I need to write a blog about this. Stroke, it increases your stroke risk 50%. Being lonely, 50% for dementia, and 60% for premature mortality. Let me get this right. A person who feels lonely has a 60% greater risk of dying early in their life, and that's it's believable to me, but it's shocking. She went on to say that luckily there's ways to combat loneliness. Look at the quality of your relationships and say, do I feel seen and validated and appreciated in my relationships? She said, people have a range of sort of activity partners. I know that working working with the population that I do, adult women, they often refer to how difficult it is as adult women to make new friends. I don't think it's quite the same challenge for men, but I'm sure it differentiates between individual. But We have a range of activity partners or people that you can do everyday activities with, as well as deepen connection. She said we want to have a mix of micro connections, talking to the barista at the coffee shop, talking to your dog walker, but also deep and meaningful connections in your life where you can feel vulnerable and open up to share. The survey also showed that loneliness was worse for young people in the United States. Get this, something Dr. Varma attributes to misguided priorities. It's really unfortunate that as much as we want our children to succeed, the emphasis I feel is being put on academic achievement, and for kids, they're looking at financial achievement, and a lot of these goals, these milestones that were possible for us years ago, aren't as possible for them. Mixing in climate change, war, which is making young people feel helpless. So think about your interactions, your environment, the people that you connect with, and make an attempt to connect more if possible. Join groups, join organizations that can help you build camaraderie with other people, because you don't want to deal with something that's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And according to Dr. Sue Varma, that's exactly what loneliness is. Let's move along to today's tip, because I don't have much time. We got about 7 minutes left. The tip of the day for exercise, nutrition, wellness, and again, I particularly serve the population of midlife women as a coach. So a lot of what I say in these tips applies to them. And this one certainly does. And it's something called low energy availability. If you're not familiar with low energy availability, it's basically when you don't fuel your body enough for the things that you're asking it to do. What might that look like in real life, Ren? Well, it might look like you going to work every day, managing your household and or family on top of that. It could look like the energy that you put into your strength training, or the energy that you put into running or cycling or any of those things, and adding all of those activities up daily that require calories for completing, and then eating it like 1,200 calories per day, right? Because a lot of you survived the 80s, and in the 80s and 90s, it was all about how much can you move and how little can you eat, right? Teeny, tiny plate, right? And you feel like that VCR flashing number 1200 is just the right number for your calorie consumption. It'll solve all of your fitness goals and weight loss or muscle building requests, and it won't. Oftentimes, the average, I don't want to say average, oftentimes women who are in midlife that are sort of hard charging against their training are drastically underfueling. And here's what that looks like as it shows up in your life. It looks like you getting bugs every once in a while, like you're often sick. Every time they invent a new cold, you get it. The new cold came out. I'm going to get it today at 5. Right? Every time something comes around that is dependent on your immune system sort of fails you. So you're constantly sick. That could be a sign of low energy availability. Menstrual cycle fluctuations. Now, obviously, this one's tricky because if you're in midlife, you may be going through perimenopause, you may be postmenopausal, and we don't have quite as a dependable cycle to start with in the first place. There's already fluctuations happening, but disruption of your menstrual cycle, bugging, nagging injuries, hairline fractures here, strained sprains, cartilage issues can be a result of low energy availability, and inability to adapt to your exercise. And what I mean by that is if you're training for fat loss isn't happening. If you're training for muscle gain isn't happening. If you're training to increase speed isn't happening. If you're training for increased strength isn't happening. That can also be a direct result of low energy availability. You're not fueling your body enough for what it needs during the course of the day. We look at an equation where we don't want active women to be under about 40 to 45 calories per kilogram of lean body mass. That sounds tricky, but effectively, if it was about a 150-pound woman and she had 20% body fat, her lean body mass would be 80%, and she'd be looking at something like 2,200, 2,300 calories a day. for all of the activity that she puts her body through and the lean body mass that she wants to sustain. Because the other thing that can happen when you're in low energy availability, you start to lose your muscle, you start to lose that tone, you start to see an increase in body fat. Your body goes from an anabolic state where it's muscle building, fat burning, and goes to a catabolic state where it's where it's muscle burning and fat building. If you've seen any of those signs, you may want to increase your food intake to match the activity, match all the stuff that you're asking your body to do. That's low energy availability. I did a podcast about it. The name of my podcast is This Podcast Has No Name. Just type that in with my name, Ren Jones, RenJones, and you can see or hear that podcast that I did most recently about low energy availability. I think it'll be informative for you. Let's move on to the last part of our weekly show. It's just from me to you, where I just talk to you a little bit about philosophy, maybe give you a little information, motivation, and I want you to think about this quote, something that I told my client a long time ago, probably 2016, 2017, when she was in a rush to get to some determinable end result. And that's this fact: you can't microwave change. You have to crock pot it. It's just the way that change happens. Change fades in. I saw another quote in a book, I think it's called Emotional Agility, and I think what the author said in that book was that change favors evolution, not revolution. You evolve into the next version of the thing that you're going to be, but if you try to revolutionize your life in one big sweeping movement, obviously the change doesn't stick. So remember that. You can't microwave change. You have to crock pot it. Have a great week. I hope this Hump Day Live session was helpful for you. Set you back on the path to get the rest of the week done and smash it. Until next Wednesday at 8:30 a.m.-ish for the next episode of Hump Day Live. My name's Ren Jones. Hey, let's keep it simple.